Hello and welcome back to another video. Now, I will just say at the start of this that the problem with Cineworld in this respect is their head office. Nothing to do with the people in the cinema. The people in the cinema are great. If you've got any issues, they will try and help you. But the problem is the head office just don't seem to give a damn. We'll see why as we go. Before this sort of issue, I had a couple of minor issues. By the way, I'll probably put on the screen just like an image of a film or something. One of the films I'm talking about in this is Plane, the Gerard Butler film, which came out. This is how long this goes back, actually. It came out in, I think, at the end of January 2023. And so rather than start trying to show you emails and stuff like that, it's just easier just to... This is just one of those talking videos. You don't have to look at the screen, so... I'll just probably just put Gerard Butler on screen. If you like Gerard Butler, if you like to look at Gerard Butler, then you'll get a lot of Gerard Butler. Anyways, so yeah, previously I had a couple of issues where the screen just went fuzzy. It's like it went out of focus, and well, how can I really describe it any more than that? I did go and have a word with someone. And once was during Black Adam in October 2022, and they seem to tweak it so it's slightly improved, but not massively. And then a couple of weeks later in the same screen, it happened again with the second Black Panther film. And the reason I could easily spot it, if it was just like the image of the film that you were looking at, well, yeah, people on the screen, it was just slightly out of focus. It wasn't that bad if you're just looking at faces and so on. But whenever there's text on screen, and there's a lot of text on screen in Black Panther 2 because it's like a lot of translations from the Wakanda language, whatever it is. And in Black Adam, there was a lot of there was some other language in there. I can't remember what it was. It goes so far back, and there were things where the place identifiers, location names, and so on. The reason I knew something immediately was awry, but I couldn't place exactly what was going on, was that while the adverts in both were perfectly fine, as soon as the BBFC title card appeared, it's like they switched from one projector to another for when the film's about to start. So you can't go and complain to someone or highlight it during the adverts because it's not happening. So it happens then when the BBFC logo appears, at which point you can easily see it's out of focus because there's a lot of text on that thing. And anyway, both times I went and had a word with someone. Yeah, they apparently tried to tweak it. Didn't always seem to be successful. And then when more text showed up on screen, it's obvious it wasn't successful at all. Later on, the long story short on that one, even though it's been quite long in the describing, it's basically they said they had to change the lamp in the projector. That's what was causing it to go out of focus. One episode posted about that in a Reddit group sometime later. They said, well, they're just lying to you, basically. There's nothing to do with the lamp, it's just out of focus. And then 2 weeks later I went back in. I was just having to be in the same screen again for The Menu, which is a brilliant film with Nicholas Hoult and Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes. And I was just like, oh God, is it going to be fine? Is it going to be fine? Please let it be fine, because they told me by then they'd fixed it. They'd replaced the lamp. And when the BBFC title card appeared, it was spot on. I was like, oh, thank God for that. And it's been fine every time I've been in that screen since. So then we have another problem, and this is not the first audio issue I've had with them. This might be the first one, but anyway, this is sort of the biggest one they've had. So this was early February 2023 when I saw this. So, dear Cineworld, Gerard Butler's plane had the atmosphere completely destroyed due to broken speakers in Cineworld Didsbury's Screen 7. Only the front speakers were working, or the supplied print was faulty. Either way, to let this play out in that way is poor form. I asked the guy there, he went and listened from the back, presumably fed this up the line, but nothing changed. 15 minutes later, someone came in briefly at the front for a moment, Then the only other time coming in was a staff member checking for anyone recording the film, because Odeon have CCTV in the screens, but I've since learned that Odeon don't have any CCTV, and so they just come in and sort of check no one's recording it. I didn't see the first guy afterwards to ask and didn't have time to start a long conversation anew. So this was a very bad cinema experience, as such a film relies on big sound. Please can you find out what went wrong and when will you fix it? I did try asking for a complimentary ticket. I did get one for the previous issues with Black Panther 2 and yeah, no, it's called Wakanda Forever, whatever. And Forever, whatever, Wakanda, whatever. And for Black Adam. So anyway, I think it's perfectly justifiable. You make an error with your projection system, then get it sorted, please. So the response I had from them was, I'm sorry to read about your experience. In order for me to investigate the case and locate the order, please be so kind as to respond to this email with the booking reference number for the screening, how the ticket's been booked online, or a photo scan of the ticket and receipt. Additionally, provide us with the name and description of the cinema staff member you raised concerns with and whether you've stayed for the entire performance, and I'll be able to assist you further. So I then described the guy. I then told him what happened again, and as I said originally, please can you find out what went wrong and when will you fix it? I did stay for the entire performance, as I thought it was going to be fixed at one point, but no, it wasn't. Walking out isn't going to achieve anything, and it wasn't on any other screens at the same time, so I had no other option. They've only got 11 screens in that particular Cineworld anyway, so I think in the case of Plane, I think it was shown on 2 screens, but it was only shown like a couple of showings in that screen, and then later on a couple of showings in another. Usually it'll just be one screen for the entire day. So, it's just... yeah. Basically, I was not going to come back 5 hours later to watch the film in another screen. And how would I know that there's a problem with that? But even if it was fine, I'm not going to sort of waste an entire day trying to watch one film. Their response... I can certainly appreciate your disappointment at having experience ruined by not being able to fully enjoy the screening during your recent visit. We aim to provide an exemplary cinematic experience to our customers, and it is disappointing to read this was not your experience. And so they sent a complimentary ticket. And what's really annoying with Cineworld's emails when they reply back to you is they truncate. It's just their automated system. It truncates previous replies, so it only shows, rather than have a whole email chain in one email, it just gets rid of anything they've replied to before, which is bloody annoying. Some companies do that. It's just fucking annoying. So I said, can you find out what the problem is in Screen 7 and has it been fixed? I could go through the entire email chain, but long story short, the people at head office, I don't think they're actually based in the UK, given some of the names they're using, but once they're not giving you an answer, and they're not going to give you an answer because they're not interested. I don't know what's wrong. They just start getting really shirty with you, which is not good customer service. It does not give you a good customer experience. The long story short, because there is another problem which I'll come into sound-wise in a moment, which is also equally baffling. It took until I didn't get confirmation, and I had to get this direct from the cinema themselves. So again, I can get an answer from the cinema. They seem to be quite happy to speak to you about something. But people on customer service, maybe I should have just stopped talking to customer service at head office a long time ago and just asking the cinema. But basically by January 2024, they had replaced, it was to do with the surround sound system. And that's why there was something wrong with it. But it took them a whole year to replace it. Why? I don't know. I mean, I just kind of figured they'd given up because Cineworld, there's always talk about them going bust and going under. And so if they go under and say get bought out by View or Odeon, then they're not going to bother upgrading or fixing things because they'll just let Odeon or View pay for it later on. But no, they did replace it eventually, and I've been in there since, and it sounds perfectly fine now. But I did go in. There's one time I went to see Strays. Can't remember exactly when that was now. But that was late on in 2023, and they said they sort of tweaked things so that the sound was sounding okay somehow in surround, even though there was no surround speakers on. But when I saw Strays, I knew it was going to be mostly. It's the sort of one where you got people like Jamie Foxx and Will Ferrell voicing dogs, and it's a very rude film. And it's mostly a dialogue-based film, so there's going to be no big surround special effects in that one. So I didn't mind going to see that, but I did avoid going to see Scream 6 in that screen, which seemed to be the only screen they were showing it on, because it's a film that will thrive on jump scares and so on, and surround sound. So what's the point in going to go and watch it in a film where you're not going to get half the experience? So it's all fixed now, but it's taken them a whole year to fix it. That's the point. And they just the customer services people are just it's like talking to a brick wall. It's like talking to a Liza program. It's like talking to ChatGPT. It's just an absolute joke. You probably start having a conversation, and afterwards they'll just say, "Tell me about your childhood." When it came to the other option, I did just find out they did email me at one point to say the cinema team is awaiting a new sound processor to have that fitted in order to have better sound distribution. That was March the 10th, 2023. So it took 10 months to get that new sound processor fitted. 10 months for his cinema. Unbelievable. So the other audio problem is one where this has happened a few times. I'll read the email out I sent them originally, and this was on March 13th last year. And it happened a few times when I was going there regularly. I'm not going there regularly anymore. I've been there occasionally, but not on a regular basis. I made reference to the fact that Screen 7 was still broken. But I said, talking of which, and seeing that I'm clearly the only one spotting these problems, Screen 6 now has the same issue, but it appears worse. Although it's a slightly different issue, but we'll come to that. I went to see Champions at 2:30 in CINEWORLD on Sunday, and while the front centre speaker was fine, for any music because that'd be for dialogue, for any music that would normally come in the left and right speakers, it only came out the right hand one. And when there were tunes played during the film, instead of it coming out of all speakers, like you'd expect for a film, which was putting them into accompany basketball games, it only came out of the front right. Meanwhile, any sound effects, like the ball being bounced around the court, did occasionally come through the surround speakers, so something's seriously wrong with what's going on. I didn't bring it up while I was in the cinema because the more I thought about it, the more complex it was to try and explain in a brief summary, and I spent a lot of that time not watching the film, and I've tried dealing with the Screen 7 problem for so long, and you still not fix that. So what's the point of me even trying to raise it with anyone? Basically, that's the point I'm making there. I know that staff pop in for a couple of minutes, largely to see if anyone's filming, and sadly they didn't come in at the time when two kids were running about the front row for the last 40 minutes. But problems wouldn't be spotted like this unless a member of staff came into the screen from the central position for about 5 to 10 minutes and when a piece of music comes on. Anyway, long story short on this one, they never gave me an answer to this. And it happened a few more times. About 4 weeks later, around Easter, I was watching Air, the film about the Air Jordan shoes, and I remember with that one, the sound was pushed all the way to the right hand side. I went outside during that one and explained this. I think it was the manageress who was coming in. There seemed to be multiple managers there, and maybe they've got a hierarchy, I have no idea. But she came in with about a little while. I said I was sat in a central position. She came in with another guy, and he stood on. I was sat in the centre and did try explaining this. He stood on the left hand side. She sat all the way on the right hand side, and they sat there for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then just went out. Now, I don't know whether they saw where I was sat, but unless I'm going to follow them out and ask them, I won't know what their answer is. And I did come out after that, but I was going straight into Superman afterwards because I was showing that, and so I didn't get a chance to ask them. And then when I came out of that, there was no one around to ask anybody anyway. And the long story short for any of these things, this is why I've not had an answer, is there is no problem. So they're only got sound coming out of one speaker, but there is no problem. And judging by one of the times I've seen this mentioned on their Facebook page, I'm not the only one who's had this issue. Now, sometime later, maybe a month or two after this, they showed a film called what was it called? Hallelujah. The Alan Bennett play turned into a film with Jennifer Saunders. Brilliant film, absolutely brilliant. And that started, and this was unlike the problem where the picture's going a bit fuzzy and out of focus. This problem happens from the start. So I immediately, as soon as I sat in this particular screen, it was a different screen. As soon as I sat in that screen, I realised that what the problem was. All the sound was pushed over to the left-hand side in this case. So in Air and Champions, it was on the right-hand side. This time round, it was on the left-hand side where all the sound was, or the music. And as soon as that came up, I was just like, oh god, I can't go through this again. So I went outside, spoke to someone. Young lad followed me back in. He stood under the speaker that was defective and that was off. And I was just like, oh, please, can we get a resolution to this? He stood under it for about 2 minutes, went outside again, and it came on. So it's like, what happened with the first two films? Did someone just knock a switch or something, or knock the balance out? And that's why it was knackered. They couldn't go back and twiddle it back, because this guy managed to fix it straight away. And then later on, I had a problem where I was watching, for the record, that was Hallelujah, that was in Screen 4 at the time, but I've been in other films in Screen 4 since, it was fine. Because they fixed it at the time. I also went into the Screen X screen, which is Screen 2, I think it is. But there's only one Screen X screen. And I've only been in there a couple of times, and that's enough, quite frankly. It's a nice gimmick. I've seen a couple of films in Screen X, but this time it was, it's not really something you want to repeat for the money. This time it was The Flash, and it was showing it wasn't showing in Screen X. I don't even know if there was a Screen X version, but they were just showing in that screen, so obviously they had nothing else to show in the Screen X format. And I was sat in a central seat, and the problem happened again with the sound being pushed all the way to the left-hand side, like with Hallelujah. And I went outside, spoke to a guy. He got, presumably a manager, to come in and have a brief chat during the adverts. I pointed out the problem. He didn't hang around long enough to sort of experience it firsthand, but he said he'd look into it, and he went up the stairs into the booth, projector booth at the back, and disappeared and never came back. And the sound was there for the entire film. The sound problem was there for the entire film. So, yeah, it's just no one seems to know what to do. Well, apart from one guy who fixed it during one film. What's going on? Really, what's going on? If you're working in a cinema, I don't expect everyone, any sort of average member of staff to know to know the ins and outs of how films work. But that guy seemed to know a lot more than the managers in that case. Why? I'm absolutely flabbergasted. My flabber is gasted. It's baffling. Really is baffling. So, there we go. If I do have that sort of problem again, I'll just have to go out and mention it, but I can't guarantee. It's like 9 times out of 10 they're not going to fix it anyway. It's just absolutely maddening, and then you try and tell the head office people via email, and they just say there's no problem. It's all in your head, Dominic. Ooh. And one last little bit, it just shows how bloody useless Cineworld customer service is. The other tweet which said recently, the biggest blockbusters deserve the biggest screens. Ahead of June Part 2, our flagship Cineworld Leicester Square got a brand new IMAX screen, so audiences could experience this monumental sci-fi epic in the way it's meant to be seen. I said as a simple reply to them, what aspect ratio is the screen, please? They replied, we're unable to advise on the specific aspect ratio for this screen. The cinema team may be able to assist more in terms of specifics. I replied back further, you can ask them, please. I'd also love to know the type of projector they're using. A quick email to them would get you this information. Thank you. No reply. The day after, so Cineworld, can you ask them, please? This is the sort of information we would need to know before making the trip. They didn't even bother replying. This really is fucking unprofessional of companies. I tried another one the next day, and I tagged my original tweet in it. I said, can you answer the question I asked the other day, please? I'm not in London, so unless there's a direct email for Leicester Square, I would like you to ask them about the aspect ratio and the projector being used. It's important for an IMAX fan. Thanks. They didn't bother replying. I then tried tweeting them again. So who at CINEWORLD will answer this, please? Just ignoring me does not answer the question. They replied to this one. Hey, we are unable to assist with this query, we're afraid. We apologise for any disappointment caused. I said, why are you refusing to help when you are CINEWORLD? You are head office. I also tweeted them, I want to know why no one wants to help with a basic query, CINEWORLD. Who do I complain to? The day after. Who can help with this CINEWORLD query if it's not CINEWORLD? I'm not in London, so no, I can't just pop in. Around about the same time, I tried them via Facebook. Exactly the same questions. Hey Dom, we're unable to assist with this query, we're afraid. Why? You are fucking useless. Anyway, thankfully, someone else in the chat did reply, another customer. IMAX dual laser 4K for projection with a 1.90 aspect ratio and IMAX 12-track audio. I said, thank you very much. But CINEWORLD, how come you can't even answer a question about your own company? That's just embarrassing. It's also, they say the film to be shown the way it's meant to be seen. Yeah, it was shot with a 1.43 aspect ratio, which is how I saw it at View Printworks. So they're not showing it properly anyway. And for a flagship cinema like Leicester Square, it's ridiculous. Anyway, a bit later on, we had a tweet which advertised tickets being on sale for Star Wars Episode 1. It's the 25th anniversary thing. I said, are you the same place as the customer service email, please? They said, hi Dom, the customer service email address is managed by our customer service team, who are a different team to us. I replied, so when I asked a question about the Leicester Square CINEWORLD IMAX recently, the sum total of Twitter reply was, dunno. Not even signposting me to send an email, and then ghosting me. I did send an email and got the answer, but your Twitter help is woeful. Why? Oh, and by the way, the answer was, please be advised that the IMAX screen measures 25.6 metres by 15.5 metres with a full aspect ratio of 1.90 to 1 and is equipped with two dual Barco 4K 6p laser projectors. CINEWORLD Twitter's response to why was, we're here to chat to our customers about film and answer any questions if we can. However, our customer service team are there to answer any specific questions or queries you have. Their information is available via the help section of our website. So I said, well, when you can't help, why don't you signpost people to them instead of just being dunno and calling it a day? They said, information regarding how to get help is readily available on our website. We know that on previous occasions you have contacted our customer service team regarding queries or complaints, so we are of the understanding that you're already aware of this email option. I said normality would be to advise someone of how to contact another element of the company to obtain advice, or simply you could have just passed the message on to them for them to look into. But hey, I guess you just want to double down on the excuses. And then a few days later they had a tweet which was advertising the Ghostbusters film. And they said, was there something strange in your neighbourhood this weekend? Give us your Ghostbusters thoughts after these opening weekend viewings. I said, on about a par with CINEWORLD Twitter customer service. They replied, sorry to hear that, Dom. Is there anything in particular we can help you with, or you'd like to discuss with us? If so, drop us a DM, but we'll be more than happy to chat. So I then tagged in my previous thread and said, please try to read this thread and justify it. They replied, we're glad you got the help you need, Dom. We might recommend from now you speak to the customer service team based in our call centre should you require further assistance. I said, you didn't read it. Your response was, dunno. They said, hi Dom, it's clear we're unable to provide you the service you expect and advise you to seek assistance elsewhere in future. So yeah, a service I expect just to answer a basic fucking question. For CINEWORLD to answer a basic fucking question about fucking CINEWORLD's fucking projections and how their fucking system works. They can't even fucking do that. But instead I left out the fuckings and I just said, you could have provided it, you just didn't want to. Please don't gaslight me. And then they didn't respond to that. So CINEWORLD, fucking, oh, if Esther Ransom was still doing That's Life, you'd be winning the Jobsworth Award, I tell you. I get her best friend Jimmy Savile to come around and deliver it to you. Anyways, let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. In the meantime, please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already, click on the bell for all notifications. No one cue a cinema with a brain.